Are we live? Are we back? Wait for confirmation here, folks. Kind of looks like we've got a signal here, doesn't it? All right, well, might as well do a double, folks, since we had so much fun this morning. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, the Fullerton Informer, coming to you live from the sunny streets of Southern California. It looks like we hit about 80 degrees today. And beautiful sunny day. Weather forecast today calls for fair skies with about an 80% chance of chemtrails over Orange County, California. And temperatures today in the upper 70s everywhere across the South Coast Basin. And I guess it's a good time to just have a little drive time chat with all of you that are suffering from the concussion that I gave a lot of you this morning, because I hurt your little feelings about your little fake. That's right. Well, I'm not here to make friends, folks. This is not a popularity contest. I'm not here to sell you penis pills. I'm not here to sell you tangy, beverages that have a bunch of poison in them, okay? I'm not here to sell you muscle relaxers or muscle enhancers or anything else. As a matter of fact, I don't even shave anymore when I come on, because you want to know something, folks? I'm real. I'm not some made-up puppet with a bunch of funding from the deniers of Jesus Christ, reading their script, following their orders on their choke chain, right? It's a big difference. How is the vibration? Is it a little better? Can you guys, yeah? All right. So, we talked a lot this morning about this nonsense that's being promoted out there. And there was a very interesting comment about how you can post all over, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these control platforms about things like the spike protein and the snake venom and the rubberized clots, right? And the mRNA and the Satan's DNA and the dog chew toy. You can post pictures of the dog toy that's chewable with the little suction cup sticking out of it, right? And you could talk about all this stuff till the cows come home. And, it'll get all the fake chat bots, and the AI will promote it with the fake subscribers, the fake views, the fake likes. And it gets out there because that's what they want you looking at. Now, I didn't want to really go into too much detail this morning about the circus clowns, because you all know who they are, because you are very familiar with them. I'm not insulting you. I'm just trying to get you to break your conditioning. Okay? I'm driving around. And by the way, I get a lot of flack. Why are you always in your car? Because I go to work. Well, why don't you live stream at home? Because I have a family. Well, why don't you, do it in someplace else besides your car? Because I really don't want to, okay? So, you guys complain about the fact that I'm in an old car and my phone's shaking too much, right? And, I look like I just rolled out of bed. You guys going to critique on my 6-day-old 5 o'clock shadow, huh? Are you going to complain about the fact that I didn't use Head and Shoulders, so I got some flakes on my shirt, and it's better than having my head end up in my shoulders and in the shower drain, right, from using 30 years of Procter & Gamble products that make you go, things that make you go home, right? All right. Folks, that stuff doesn't bother me. I hear the trolls. I hear the knuckle chuckle heads. It's okay. I can take things with a grain of salt because I got thick skin, folks. Always have. That's why I do this. But I have a big heart because it makes me sick how innocent people are having their loved ones killed and their family members murdered, and they're about to have their bank accounts emptied out and have their homes taken from them because there's a psychopathic group of people that have a system of religious superiority that thinks it's okay to slaughter anyone that's not one of them, and they have all kinds of different ways to do it, but they'll never come out and tell you they're doing it. They'll just do it trying to tell you they love you and they're trying to help you. And so that's why the inventors of evil things have to control the narrative with their sock puppets, right? Well, that's what they do. And never been one of them, folks. As a matter of fact, many years ago, when I got into activism, there's a lot of things I got angry about growing up and seeing a lot of injustice. And no, I'm not one of these woke and broke take a toke guys. That's not me, folks. I'm not into these subversive groups or these communist Antifa guys or these socialist psychopaths, right? I'm just a guy that believes in freedom and doing what's right, okay? But I've always seen problems, right? There's always been the fat cat that rips everybody off and lies and cheats and steals and screws everybody over, right? And generally, they're politicians. They get into politics because politics is Hollywood for ugly people, okay? Now, that's off the table, let's get to the facts. See, what happens is, whether it's a city or a parish or a town or a county, or a stake or a ward or, a diocese or whatever, anybody who's, or a district or, anybody who's in the school district or the church or the government, high enough up, you're a crook, okay? That's why you're there. That's why you're at the top. And you're there to do two things, to put the screws to the little guys and to make sure the train stays on the crooked tracks. And there's no other reason. How do I know this? Because over the decades of my activism, I have come face to face, toe to toe with people in government, in religion, in education, in law enforcement. And every time you try to get to the root of the problem, even though you have the facts on your side, you hit the proverbial brick wall, okay? In every instance. So, in a lot of people that had the audacity to try to say, hey, here I am sticking my neck out, trying to fight all this evil, confront all this stuff, try to change things, right? And then there's these people that come out of the sidelines, right? They come out of the audience and say, oh, Joe, you should be nice. It's your delivery that's the problem. There's nothing wrong with my delivery, folks. There's something wrong with the target, okay? That's the problem. So, everywhere we go, we got this problem, folks. At the very top, you got very evil, wicked criminals running things, okay? And they wage war through deception and lies and treachery and blackmail. So I've taken it upon myself, because I watched what happened to people like my father, who were treated in a way by some very sick and evil people that I didn't approve of. But he understood who they were and where they were going when they were going to die. And he knew his role as a father and as a husband. And I had many conversations with him about how to deal with problems and problem people. And the first thing that my father told me, anytime you deal with these bad people, is you always pray first. My father had this coin in his pocket, and I never knew what it was until after he died, because I ended up taking possession of this coin. I thought it was an old silver dollar or an old coin, and it was a coin that had a pair of praying hands that said, "I don't know when I have to stop, but I'm going to keep on trying." And it was a picture of two hands in prayer, and that coin, he carried that every day of his life. Folks, we got to go to bat. We can't be afraid. I remember when I was 12 years old, I'll never forget, I was in the majors in Little League in growing up, and I was so glad that this young boy was on my team, because the way he threw the pitches, I mean, he was probably throwing 80 miles an hour from a very short distance. I was scared to death, but I still had to go to bat in the city tournament against some of these other teams that I'd never seen before. And I had to get in that box, and boy, I was scared. Let me tell you, I was scared. I wasn't happy about it. But I had to go to bat. We all got to go to bat. You know why? Because they're coming after us. Okay? Right now, about ready to turn right, and, there's all these advertisements for cigarettes, for liquor. There's a pharmacy here. There's a donut shop there. There's a dentist right next door. I mean, talk about problem, reaction, solution, right? Fast food joints, cell towers, these big thick black cables with the 5G coming everywhere, right? LED street lights are going to be turning on pretty soon, and I'll be faced with projector beam headlights if I don't get home before dark, right? And then I got to deal with all these other things that we have to deal with on a daily basis, right? Like what they're doing to your children, what they want to do to your children, what they're programming your children with, what they're trying to do to your children medically, what they're trying to do to you, what they're doing to your wife behind your back when she's watching these desperation housewife whores, right? All this trash television, this disgusting garbage. I mean, if you threw one of those bimbos in a swimming pool and drag them out by their hair, they would look like somebody who just woke up from the dump. Okay, it's disgusting what they do to these people. None of it is real. It's all subversive. Oh, but Joe, you're so angry. No, I'm not. I'm truthful. The problem is the emasculation begins in the classroom, and it follows over into the Cub Scouts, and then it follows over into the Boy Scouts, and it follows over into the junior college and the high schools and the colleges, and then it follows over into the churches, right? And then it follows over into the workplace, right? And then it follows over into every aspect of civic life, right? Emasculation, right? Oh, don't raise your voice, don't get upset, don't talk out loud when it's not your turn, don't fight back, just lay down, nope, and then you sit there and it's like, oh, all Jesus did was love everybody. Meantime, people are dropping like flies in the retirement communities, one after the other, dropping dead. There's a retirement community where my mother lived, and within a week, 3 of her neighbors dropped dead. Now, in a normal, sane world, they'd be looking for a serial killer. But in this insane world, they're just like, oh, it was their time. That's right. Because you have this disease going around called cognitive dissonance. And it happens to be very contagious among the morally bankrupt cowards, right? And then there's an underlying disease whose symptoms manifest on a daily basis. And that is they've all been chemically castrated and electromagnetically lobotomized. Okay? So now you understand why people can't think. Now you understand why people don't care. But you see, folks, we're not here to worry about those that don't care. As a matter of fact, the people that don't care never matter to begin with. Do you think any of the people that don't care matter about what's coming? They don't. They will end up falling victims to the very things they failed to fight, and they will, in and of themselves, be an impediment to what is going to try to come after us. Because all they're going to do is prove that we were right all along, as the evidence mounts, as the bodies stack up, so to speak. You know, there's one thing I don't gloat in. There's one thing I never got any pleasure out of. There's one thing I never took any pride in. There's one thing I never liked to do to anybody, and that was rub it in their face and tell them I told you so, especially after I was just proven right. But that's what's going to happen on a very large scale, folks. The websites that I run and the information that has been exposed speaks for itself. I don't need to sit here and, have a fancy studio and somebody Photoshop my thumbnails. And, as a matter of fact, folks, do you know why? Somebody said, Joe, why do you always have a picture of your hair on the on the thumbnail of your videos? I said, that's because I get in the car, I start the car, and by the grace of God, I'm thankful it started because the thing's 29 years old, right? But I do like it because I can't remote control it. But once I get this jalopy rolling, and it's got some good German suspension, and it's got some good German steel, and it's got some good German engineering in it, so I know I'll get there safely. I push the button, and then it takes a picture of me sitting in front of my phone. I don't sit there and have somebody doing my makeup. I don't have somebody sitting there changing the lighting. I don't have somebody sitting there doing anything. As a matter of fact, my cell phone's worth about $80, and it's got a $20 data plan, and it's got a free VPN. I don't have anybody making a studio with the spinning earth ball with all these blue, trust colors and graphics and green screen crap. And then I don't have all these sponsors that come on here and tell you to buy this magnificent herbicidal pill that will make your ears grow taller or something, like all these circus clowns do. All right? I'm just telling you the truth, folks. And the truth stands on its own. You're not going to hear the truth in church because the churches are controlled by criminals. I'll tell you what, you know how you can tell a church is controlled by criminals? I'll tell you right now. I can prove to you that it is. Go to the church and ask the pastor to see all of his financial records. And he will politely tell you to pound sand. Now, then they'll come give you some excuse. Oh, well, the real financial records, like the statements, folks, like the bank deposit statements, like a list of all the real estate holdings, like a list of all the stock portfolios, like a list of all the LLCs that were set up that all the money's getting funneled into. You can do that, and you can determine right then and there. Now, the schools are a little different. The Christian schools are a little different because, some of them have to file what's called a 990 form. But then, you can look up that form on like the GuideStar website and you can see the finances of these private schools, right? And then you'll start seeing how they're faking all their expenses and they're lying and stealing all the money from the parents as they're paying the teacher a minimum wage. They got 40 children in the classroom and they're charging you $3,000 a month. How do I know that that's the case? Because my family and I have been kicked out of several private Christian schools for questioning their finances, right? How do we know that things are run by criminals? Well, look at what they teach and look at how they hide their criminal activity, right? Most of these Christian schools that are run by churches are run by the churches so they don't have to show their finances. So you can tell if the school and the church is run by criminals by just one visit to the office. You don't have to talk to two people in two buildings, and they'll tell you the same thing. Oh, that's private. Really? Well, okay. What's so private about it? I mean, if this is really something that is not a rip-off operation, and the New Testament model shows how the church held all possessions in common, and that means it's a communal form of property ownership and asset control. You can ask them, why don't they follow that model? Well, it's because we're a corporation. Oh, I see. So you're actually not controlled by God. You're governed by the Uniform Commercial Code. I see how this works. Okay. All right. Well, how about just let's go through the online statements of all the deposits and the payroll taxes and the workers' comp and all the expenses, and how much is left after every Sunday's collection, including all the donations of real estate and cars and boats, trucks, and cash holdings that aren't accounted for. Can we sit down and really? Well, now you have to sit down and meet with the elders about that. We'll have to have a board meeting and see if we're willing to. Folks, they're telling you that the earth is a spinning ball. They're telling you to go to the doctors. They're telling you all about how wonderful the ball game is. They want you watching television. They want you taking medication. They want you to believe in the, the dog toy with the spikes on it. They want you to believe that, wearing a Pampers on your face is a good idea. And they want you to get with the status quo program, folks. That's the plan. That's the definition of criminality, folks. You see, real people that care about you will do whatever is necessary to make sure that nothing bad happens to you, even if they've never even met you. Okay? All right, now, I have a neighbor on my street. This lady, my daughter, when she was really young, I think she was about 4 years old. And she, my children are always playing outside with me. We're out there playing ball or riding scooters, whatever. And my daughter, she was riding a scooter and she fell down. And, she scraped her knee, right? And yes, I tried to make her wear knee pads. She wouldn't wear them. She had her helmet on. But she's laying there, and I had some other children out there with me from the neighborhood. And this woman, my daughter was laying on the ground crying, bleeding. And you know what this woman did? She kept walking and ignored my daughter. Now, I have to look at this person every time this person gets, in their car and drives by. I have to look at these people, okay? And by the way, these are the same people that are freaking out because the Imbrianos aren't vaccinated and aren't wearing masks on the 4th of July, and they're screaming, get away from him, get away from my husband, Whatever, right? And the other subversive agents in the neighborhood, I could probably talk for about 2 or 3 shows on the people that live in my neighborhood. And they're not good neighbors, folks. These people that you think are your friends are not your friends. These people that are your neighbors are not your neighbors, folks. They would rat you out and turn you in a heartbeat if there was anything in it for them. And don't you ever forget that. And that is why we need to do what we have to do, even if it means going it alone, because we're never alone. Because what unites us is the truth. And what unites us is the common knowledge of the truth. And what continues to bind us together is the continued assault on everything that we hold dear and sacred. Okay? They're not hiding what they're doing to us. And as a result, they are energizing the base of resistance. Okay? And so that is why they're turning up the heat and cranking out massive disinformation programs, massive disinformation shill production channels, massive high-tech, polished propaganda pinheads. And, they've got these pinups and these bimbos and, these 2-bit hacks that are, putting information out, and they got a bunch of money behind them, folks. And it's not money from a clean source. And the mantra that is being repeated, the agenda that's being pushed, is all being done in a very well synchronized, harmonious, concerted effort that is well controlled, regulated, and scripted. And they're all working together. And I'll tell you what, you want to go to one of these green pill expos or these consciousness, awareness, UFO business crap, go look and see. They're all buddies. Okay? You want to step right up and get your ticket to the Muppet Show? Go right ahead. You want to turn on the radio and hear the syndicated broadcast with the Chupacabra alien abduction, psychic connection, talking to the dead 3 or 4 nights a week? Go ahead. And by the way, the circus clowns are all recycled through George Norrie's Coast to Coast all the time. The litmus test for whether someone is a shill is really their connection to the other circus clowns. Okay? And when you look at what they're pushing and promoting and what they're talking about, and when you look at the nonsense that that they're trying to freak you out with, I remember like for example, years back, the movie Vaxxed, right? Remember that thing? What was that? The guy that put that out, that Del Bigfoot guy. What's his name? Anyway, he's one of them. I remember back when SB 277 was a piece of legislation that was still awaiting the governor's signature and still trying to get through one of the houses up in Sacramento. I think it had to still go through the assembly. And then I went to a protest up there. I brought a pastor with me. And we prayed over the place. And, we tried, right? And I'm up on the steps of the Capitol. And I'm up there with these signs that I had brought with me. And the signs that I had made had references to Section 13 of the vaccine insert, right? And so in big bold print, I'm up there on the steps of the Capitol. And the news media had pictures of the Capitol protest and me up there on the steps, even though the Canary Party and Voice for Choice and all these controlled opposition pep rally people try to get me off the steps of the Capitol like they owned the Capitol or something. I said, I'm not getting down. You don't own this property. I'm here legally. And you're not going to get me to get down from here, and you're not going to take my signs away from me. Because, see, I was trying to go about informing people of the truth, and that is Section 13 of the vaccine insert state that the vaccines have not been tested for mutagenic potential, carcinogenic potential, or impairment of fertility. And that's an important fact. But you see, these pharma operatives that got bankrolled and were up there setting up the protests and controlling the speakers and everything else, they didn't want you talking about that. And when they rolled out these billboards, they wouldn't put that up there. They would just put up how there was just, you don't want to take the vaccines because they got ice cream ingredients in it, right? Well, when I was up there, the news media whited out my signs so you couldn't read what was on my signs. Okay? That's how they roll, folks. I mean, I try, right? That's what I do. I'll dump some money, get on an airplane, go up there, take a couple people with me, try to do what's right. Because I know that it breaks your heart when you're forced to drag your children into an office where they ask you 500 questions. Is there alcohol in your house or guns in your house? Do you have any dangerous chemicals in your house? Is anyone in your house violent? Does anyone in your house have mental illness? Does anyone in your house have access to guns? Does anyone in your house have anything wrong with them? Do you have enough to eat? Is there any dirty dishes in your sink? Do you know the phone number for the suicide prevention hotline? All the social service dossier questions in the pediatrician's office, right? And then after that, you go in there and there's like 20 rooms. And then, your child's in there and, they make them roll up their sleeves and then they let them have it, right? And then the next day, what happens is they get the sniffles, they get a fever, they don't feel good, they stay in bed for a couple days, and it's like, oh, it's all over now, right? Well, no, it's not all over, folks. It's not that simple, okay? It's not that simple. Because just because the sniffles goes away, that doesn't mean they're not done, all right? Because you got to take them back again and again and again, and they cry and they're not happy about it. But that's what they do. Why? Because that's what they have to do, because they're forced to. Why? I'll tell you why. Because some moronic imbecile that's on the government payroll that likes to wax his Tesla makes sure that you do that. Okay? Because some corrupt, insecure, myopic coward that works in the office will make a phone call if you don't. You know what, folks? These people aren't your friends. These people that you think are on your side, you'll find out real quick. You know, here's the funny thing. I'm just driving through a neighborhood. There's a teacher at one of the public schools that ignored everything I said for years. She knows who I am, and I drive by her house, I don't know, on the main drag here a couple times a week maybe, and they just put a 5G millimeter wave antenna on the light pole right in front of her house. And so as she ignored all the warnings of me standing out on the sidewalk in front of the school with these big banners, having the cops called on me, having people make fun of me, having these firemen make fun of me, having these policemen make fun of me, having their kids not want to play with my children anymore because I'm Mr. Imbriano. They call me all kinds of names. The teacher gets what? She gets a 5G antenna on the telephone pole in front of her house. I hope she enjoys it. I hope she loves that frequency. It's called She's Giving Me Good Vibrations, right? Remember I ought to play that song. Now I get a copyright strike for that. I had to go stand in front of that house and live stream and aim right at that thing with the camera and play the Beach Boys song, right? Have you noticed in front of all the schools, they've got these millimeter wave weapons? Have you seen those? Have you seen those, folks? Well, you know, the reason I talk about all this stuff is because I'm sick of it. You know, I've been dealing, I've been going toe-to-toe with lemming, morally bankrupt morons for a long time. And let me tell you something, folks. You know, they put on a nice, pretty face and a nice smile. But they're as dangerous as a rattlesnake, every last one of them. Don't you ever trust anyone that works for the government. Ever. Okay? Now, back to the topics. I'm going to start going into the chemistry of graphene because I haven't really broached this subject. Although you could go to the Fullerton Informer and you can Google, graphene dangers. GrapheneDangers.com is one of my websites. I have a chemistry degree, folks. I understand, terminology, nomenclature, and you can't pull one off on me. All right. And when I listen to the circus clowns talk about, how this is going to do this and this is going to do that, and yet they'll never talk about specific frequencies with respect to specific molecular absorption spectrum, seriously, folks, when's the last time you heard one of these well-funded operatives talk about the oxygen molecule frequency and your VR headset and your home Wi-Fi that's going to take your breath away? See, folks, they don't talk about this. They got you thinking that if you go to Walgreens and get a flu shot, you're going to come out with a string of condoms in your bloodstream. Okay? It's that ridiculous. They got you worried about rubberizing your circulatory system when in fact the real problem is half of the stuff in your house is making you sick and killing you. But I don't want to digress too much, especially with the sun in my eyes. Boy, what a beautiful day in Southern California, though, huh? No, you know what? I don't need the visor. Can you guys see me okay? Can you guys see the road atlas on my forehead? Can you guys see who I am? Can you guys see who I really am, folks? I'm not some powder puff in some pimp studio, okay? I'm just a working stiff who has had enough of it, and I'm sick of it, and you should be too. Come on, look what's going on. Look what they've done. They're ruining the United States. The border's wide open. The economy's on the verge of collapse. The banks are about to fail. And everybody's watching vampire porn at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the cartoons. It's disgusting. Half the food in the store isn't even food. And then everybody just seems to think, well, as long as the card works and, as long as I get my paycheck. Folks, I want to tell you something. Did you know that nobody's safe from what's coming? All they got to do is call the loan on your house and out you go. You got to, oh yeah, you can afford the payment, can't you? Can you afford to cover the balance if you had to within 7 days? I can tell you right now, all these churches got tons of cash. They're sitting on millions and millions and millions of dollars in reserves. All of us are in debt up to our eyeballs, and all they got to do is call the loans. And guess what? We're all on the streets. And then that Klaus Schwabenheisenstein guy, whatever his name is, the guy that runs around in girls' underwear, the Economic Forum guy, he says, well, you will own nothing and be happy, right? Well, that's what he meant. You don't think they went to 2% residential mortgage interest rates for a reason? To do a complete boomerang with the real estate value so people go out and finance $1 million for a 3-bedroom house that they'll never be able to pay off? And when they call the loan, they won't be able to pay it. So guess what? Get in line for your soup and your bread and your injection, right? You know, folks, I talk about a lot of stuff. I talk about a lot of things. Sometimes I raise my voice, you know. But, you know, I'm really a nice guy. I'm really a pleasant guy. I'm a lot of fun to be around. And no, this is not an ad for a dating service, okay? Folks, listen. I'm just telling you right now, you got to wake up, all right? There's a lot of stuff. I could go for hours and hours and hours and talk to you about, you know, all the dangers we face. As a matter of fact, that's why I've produced over 1,000 videos. And you want to know something? I produced it by pushing a button on a cheap phone or a $20 webcam. I don't have anybody putting a studio together for me and setting up the, you know, the news desk and writing stories and organizing the sermons and all of the news stories and writing my. I don't have anybody writing anything for me. The only thing I got is the abilities that God has given me. And the most important thing that I was given was the forgiveness of sin through the sinless sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the wisdom of his Holy Spirit that has given me eyes to see, ears to hear, and a tongue to utter the ultimate truths, and the courage to do it in a way that it needs to be done. All right. This is your host, Joe Imbriano, and I'm going to sign off. I don't know why I'm going to sign off, folks, because we've gone long on this one, right? But I know most people can't take more than 5-10 minutes. You know, some people can handle the whole thing, right? I could go. I've done live streams for several hours just talking. And no, I don't go off the script, folks. I just talk about what's on my mind. And there's a lot of stuff on my mind because, you know, it doesn't take much to realize there's a lot of stuff going on. But if you want to stay on your merry-go-round, if you want to suck on your thumb and roll up in your little blankie and wait for your Hot Pocket to go ding-ding in the toaster or the microwave, you know, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to fault you for that. But when the day comes and you're high and dry and freaking out, don't come crying to me, all right? Don't come blaming anybody but yourself for what's about to be done to you and for what's being done to your children. All right? Looks like we have close to 800 people in this stream right now, and I'd appreciate if you get the likes up because, you know, it's amazing because when you Google my name on a cell phone in a Google search bar, they try to put a 4 after my last name so it'll come up with the fact that I didn't win the city council election. You know, the Google algorithm manipulation is hilarious, right? You know, I've done, 1,000 videos. I've written 1,000 articles. And when you Google my name, they try to redirect you to a campaign filing violation because I didn't report $200 in donations. That's all I'm known for, right? I'll tell you what I will do is I will shave the next time I come on, so I'll look a little more presentable. But this is me after not having shaved for 6 days, okay? So honestly, folks, this is as bad as I'll ever look, unless things get really bad. And I don't think it's that bad, do you? All right, ladies and gentlemen, take care. I want to thank you for tuning in. Download these videos and upload these videos. Just don't monetize them. And don't sell crap on your channel if you're putting these things up. You know, just get the word out, folks. And most importantly, I need your prayers, okay? For protection and wisdom and guidance. Because, you know, I need to stay on track and on focus. And graphene is something we need to explore together, because this is going to be something. Metals in general with the electromagnetic weaponry are a key focus of what Joe Imbriano has always been about all along, okay? Electromagnetic frequencies and metals, folks. Those two are inexorably intertwined, okay? And we're going to delve into this, and we're going to get to the bottom of it, so you don't end up freaking out about Satan's DNA or hydrogel or snake venom or, latex running down the side. All right, folks, thank you. And no, I don't need a joint and a beer, okay? I don't need to do that stuff, because to be honest with you, when it is time for me to unplug and to unwind, it is time for me not to unplug and unwind, but it's time to plug into the God and the Holy Spirit, and it's fellowship time with Jesus, right? Because Jesus and I, we go back quite a ways, okay? Since before the foundations of the earth were laid. That's how far back he goes with you, if you know him. All right, folks. I want you to take care. We'll see you on the flip side, maybe with a clean shave next time, okay? God bless.